So in this video we are going to talk about hypothesis testing. So this is one of the very crucial concepts of statistics along with the concept of estimation. So in this video we are going to see like the definition of hypothesis, what it is, then we will see what is a null hypothesis, then we will see what is an alternative hypothesis, and then finally we will see some examples and then conclude our video. So what is a hypothesis? So in scientific terms, it's basically an idea and prediction which you can prove using the data. So it's more than a wild guess and less than a well-established theory. And when we talk about hypothesis in statistics, we generally talk about the parameters which we will be taking up in hypothesis testing, like the averages or the proportions. Now, one of the example of an hypothesis would be like a researcher might have observed that certain companies' bulb have longer average lives than another company's bulb, say B. Another example might be like a researcher might have observed that the Honda cars give like higher mileage than the Nissan cars. So these two are the example of hypothesis which a researcher came up with. So what is a null hypothesis? So null hypothesis is basically denoted by H0, and this is the hypothesis which the researcher wants to disprove. Or in other words, you can say this is the negative of what your research wants to convey. It is generally associated with an equals to sign. Sometimes it's also associated with less than equal to or greater than equal to. But remember, like equals to always come up in null hypothesis. Now also one thing very important to remember is like you either reject the null hypothesis or fail to reject the null hypothesis. We never accept the null hypothesis. Now, along with null, the alternative hypothesis is what completes the hypothesis composition framework. So this is generally denoted by H1 or HA, and this is alternative to the null hypothesis, and this is what your research wants to convey. This is generally followed by less than, greater than, or not equals. Now always remember that the term alternate here is with reference to the null and not the research hypothesis. Examples and learn how to frame hypothesis. So question is like a researcher says that the average height of the students of a college is not 160 centimeters. So the question is state the null and the alternative. So we need to find H0 and H1. And let's say like the average height of the students of a college is denoted by mu. So remember H0 is something which the researcher wants to disprove. So here what he wants to prove that the average height of the student is not 160. So what he wants to disprove is that the average height is 160. And as we have learned, like the alternative is just the alternate to the null. Hence the alternative would be mu is not equals to 160. Let's see another example. A researcher says that the average height of the students of a college is greater than 160 centimeters. So again we need to find H0 and H1. So and again we will denote the average height using mu. So here what the researcher wants to prove that mu is greater than 160. So obviously what he wants to disprove is that the height is less than or equal to 160. Hence the mean or the mu or the alternative hypothesis is mu is greater than equal to 160, which the researcher wants to prove. Let's see another example. So here the question is the average amount of time taken to reach point A from point B is lesser than the 45 minutes, usual 45 minutes using the new bridge. So again we need to find H0 and H1. And again we will assume mu is the average amount of time for the travel. So what here, if you see like the researcher here wants to disprove that the travel time is greater than or equal to 45 minutes. Hence we can say that null would be mu greater than equal to 45, and obviously the alternate is the alternate to mu, which is 45. So hope you got the concept of null and the alternative, and hope you got the concept of how to frame a hypothesis.